let's have an honest conversation about the comments that come that really don't make any of us feel good. And they can come from, the haters and the naysayers and the people who are really upset for some reason. But they can also come from people who are actually making good points and maybe just disagree with us or just don't like our approach, or they might actually point out that some of your information's wrong, but do it in, not always the nicest way. But generally the negative comments that come, and how do you deal with those? Or do you get to a point where you're actually no longer bothered by the negative comments? And it was something, if we're talking about like being honest, it was something where I asked somebody who has a very large radio show. They've been on the radio for 30 years, and they're also a lawyer. And before that, they were an MP, like a member of parliament, be like a congressman, but in a public office. And, so much life experience, just ooze confidence. They don't seem worried by anything. And I remember I was having lunch with them, and I said, hey, do the negative comments, like do the haters, do they still get to you? And it was funny to hear him say about how oh yeah. Yeah, like not often, he was saying, I'm pretty good I got a thick skin and not many get through, but every once in a while there is a comment that gets through that gets you seething or gets you mad or just really irks you. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is something that everybody deals with on all levels, no matter where you get to. And so it's not just about coming to some kind of state where things just never bother you, but it's learning how to deal with it when they do bother you. And that's maybe a little bit of a twist. And it's interesting watching, I love Twitter, but seeing how many people recently have been saying, I'm taking a break from social media because I can't handle all the negativity and all the trolls and all the haters and all the people saying just horrendous things, that somehow we live in a world where it's accepted to be rude or to go beyond rude and just be vicious. And we don't really have tools for dealing with it. And so if you're a creator in any kind where you are putting yourself out there and pushing the envelope, you have to come to terms with the fact that you're going to get negativity coming your way, because there's a lot of broken people out there. And if you've heard this before, it seems a bit cliche, but it's actually really good saying, which is hurting people hurt people. It's hurting people. And somehow, for me at least, that's given me some sense of empathy, that when people are being just absolutely ridiculous, not in a vindictive way, I sometimes just want to comment back like, who hurt you? But the truth is somebody did. And so that's kind of an awful thing to say to people. But regardless of all of this, it's interesting because I do relate with this guy that I went for lunch with and was chatting with about how over time, it has gotten much easier to deal with negative comments as I've become more comfortable in my own skin online, creating stuff and being, a personality or being just somebody who puts stuff out there. I think the longer you go on, the more you know your approach, and provided you feel good about looking yourself in the mirror and going, hey, I'm actually trying to help people and trying to create something for good. One, that makes it a lot easier when you're doing things for the right reasons. Like when somebody complains about a video I've done that, I didn't put in enough work, or this thing looked ridiculous, or they hate my opinion, or this was a waste of time because you didn't do this, this, and this, and all these. I'm like, hey, I'm literally here for free making videos to try and help people. And so if you don't like the video, you didn't pay anything for it, yet you don't have to watch. And I know my intentions are I'm just trying to help and I'm trying to create, and yeah, I get something out of it because I enjoy making it. And this video I'll probably make around 4 to 5 cents, off the ad. Oh wait, no, I don't put AdSense on these videos. So, I won't make any money off of these, but I enjoy doing it, and that's a part of the process. And I genuinely want to help. And so if you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing it for the right reasons, that can actually be a nice safeguard that when people are trying to tear you down or something, you don't owe them anything. And this is one of the biggest things that we have to realize as a society is somebody's words only have power if you give those words the power. Like you can't actually be hurt by something somebody says unless you give them and what they're saying value and saying, oh, I value your opinion. If you value somebody's opinion 0, it doesn't matter what they say. Like if there was somebody who you knew genuinely was like crazy, like they just said things and they strung together a sentence that said, you smell funny, and they didn't even know what they were saying, you would go, well, I'm not really worried about what they just said to me. But obviously it was somebody you really respected and looked up to and cared about, and they told you that you smelled funny, you might go, oh, do I smell funny? And suddenly you're a little bit self-conscious, but it's because you're assigning weight to those things. And it can be a slippery slope when you are creating content. And when I say you, I mean me as well. I've done this where you're creating content and putting it out there and hoping to get validation back from the content. Now, to be honest, nobody that I have ever met or heard of doesn't look for some validation of, I created this thing, I put it out to the world, and I want to know that people like it and accept it and enjoy it and are giving me feedback saying it's really good. But the more that you're relying on that, the more weight it has when comments do come back that are negative or rude or all those sorts of things, because you're really looking for that validation. And when you get the opposite, even if it's just a few people, it's tougher to receive that feedback. And so you need to be careful for the reasons of why you're putting stuff out there. It can be for validation, it can be for all these things. But at the end of the day, you need to look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm proud of the thing that I put out, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Now, sure, you want to get some validation, but if you're putting stuff out there that you don't look at and go, oh, I'm really proud of that, for any number of reasons, then I wouldn't put it out there, because just putting stuff out there where you're like, I don't really think it's good, and and just hoping that people will externally validate, yeah, that's going to be tricky. Now, when you're first starting out, you might not have any concept of knowing, I'm not sure whether it's good or it's not good, but remember that good is a very relative and broad scale. What you need to look at is, I created this thing, and am I proud not just of the outcome of it and the output, because there will always be things where you're like, I'm not proud of this, and I could have done this better and this and that. But can you look at it and go, I worked really hard on this, and I know that there was 4 things in this video that were a stretch for me, that were tricky for me, that I hadn't done that shot before, I hadn't tried doing this thing, or I went on a limb here and made a stronger statement than I normally would, and that's hard for me, but I did it anyway. If you can look at some things and go, I'm proud of these things in it. Overall, there's gaps. It's not perfect. I wish this would have been better. I stumbled here. I did that. Don't worry about that. But if you can look at some things and go, I'm proud of what I did when I created this thing, then when you put it out there, and especially if you're self-aware enough to go, somebody say, you stumbled over this, you're not that good at talking, or, you looked funny at this and you didn't do your hair, or why is your hair a mess? And my kids messed it up. We were playing. I don't know. How is it? Yeah. But, those kind of things. But I go, what I'm proud of right now is that I think I've done a pretty good job of not putting in a bunch of ums and ahs, and that can happen for me. Or I have certain phrases that I will say often, and I'm working on doing those things. And, the lighting in here, I'm like, this looks pretty good. And the last one, I was a little too zoomed in and zoomed out. There's things in it where I go, I think this section right now is a good segment. I'm proud I'm going to put it out there, but there's going to be holes. And people can pick holes at it, but I go, yeah, there are all sorts of things that I could have done better and different, but what I wanted to do was a few of these things, and I'm proud of that. Being able to do that is going to really, really help you. That focus on the things when you create a piece of content that you're proud of, and then when you get the negative things, you go, yeah, sure, I could do those things, but one, you only have so much time and so much energy and so much things. But if there's a few of them where you go, yeah, I'm actually going to take that feedback and try and work it in, then do that. But getting super upset and being vicious back to people sure sounds like a good idea. But the problem is that if you do grow and you do get bigger and you get in the habit, because if you don't know this, being angry releases a whole bunch of endorphins in you that in the end makes you feel something, makes you feel better, that you can actually get addicted to the cycle of seeing a comment, going into rage mode, hammering out a rage response, and you're actually wiring your brain to get more and more angry because you start getting addicted to the endorphins and all those things rushing through your body. But if you can find a way to take a calm approach, just breathe and move on and not let yourself get so worked up using a little bit of self-discipline, then you're actually making it easier the next time. Now, depending how you're feeling, depending how things are going to go on, there's still lots of things that are going to get to you. But just know that's just part of it. And the more that you practice dealing with the negativity, dealing with the hate, dealing with the things, the better it gets. But at the end of the day, I don't know that any of us will ever be completely free from getting riled up about comments. But you have lots of ways you can deal with it. For me, what I'm actually trying to do is lots of times I was trying to avoid conflict. So I'll be like very, understanding and empathetic, and that's great. But there are times where I don't know that I'm always like strong enough back just to go like, hey, no, like what you're saying is actually wrong and the way you're doing it is rude, but like here are the facts and here's why I came to this thing. But at the end of the day too, you're going to find people where it's like, there's just no point engaging. It's easier just to go delete or hide or just scroll and don't come back. There's lots of things like you have no obligation to deal with anybody who's injecting negativity in your life. You don't. And it's very freeing when you realize that and go, you know what? I'm just not going to do this. I'm not going to let this person comment on my channel. I'm just going to block them right away. I didn't enjoy the way they commented on it. So what? That's fine. But there's also an opportunity for lots of feedback in the negativity. And that's probably the hardest part, is taking a piece of negative, trying to break it apart and go, oh, this person's emotional, they're broken, they're hurting, whatever. But is there a couple of things to pull out from here? Yeah, maybe. But I wouldn't base it off one comment, but you can kind of tuck that away where if you're getting 6 or 7 comments on similar theme, you go, all right, there's an opportunity here. If you can change it, great. If you keep hearing Kermit the Frog, you go, yeah, it is what it is. If you're too annoyed by my voice to watch my videos, I'm sure there's another channel for you, and there's nothing that I can do about that. But I know a lot of things that I'm good at, and I'm confident in that. So I don't know. Negativity online. Let's all make a concerted effort to be more positive. And the thing is that most of the negative comments you're going to see are coming from people who aren't putting themselves out there, because most people who create and put themselves out there know how hard it is, and they're not going to be the ones who are going to be piling negativity on you. So that can almost make it better. Like, I'll be honest, oftentimes when I get a really negative comment, I click on the person's name on YouTube to go to their channel and see, okay, well, like, what are you doing here? And there have been times where it's very rare, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, you're actually doing something nice here. And I've left some nice comments on their videos because I was being honest. Like they were doing some good things. I thought, hey, you need some positivity in your life. But 99.9% of the time I click on them, I'm like, you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. So I'm not going to assign much weight or much value because I don't think you actually have the experience necessary to comment on this. And even if you had some experience, but you're a jerk, I don't care. I don't want you to be my best friend. So, yeah. Random rant on negative comments, all sorts of things. I don't know, but it's honest. So I'll put it out there.